Oh, man, is this different. Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today I am with a super cool little bike. This is Honda's 1973 CB125 S. This was manufactured in 7 of 1972. It was something that people would buy and use for daily transportation. They're good on gas. I'm very curious to ride it, and we'll get to that in just a little bit here. But this bike is so small and almost bicycle-like. It has very, very small drum brakes on the front and a small drum brake on the rear. It has a single-cylinder 125 air-cooled engine in it. As far as just a simple motorcycle goes, it doesn't get much more simple than this. Really, the only instrumentation on the bike is a speedometer. And so it's just very, very basic. You know that you need to get gas when the bike starts to sputter and you need to flip it onto reserve. But it's just a neat machine. This is officially the oldest bike I've ever ridden on. So I'm looking forward to that, just to kind of see how progress has gone. I think we'll take this out in a little Ninja 250, which is more of a modern small bike. And I've ridden those before, but it'll be interesting to see the contrast between these two bikes as well. My friend John was kind enough to let me ride this bike, so thank you, John. I really appreciate that. And it's a real treat to just be able to ride and experience the vintage bikes like this. Just very cool. And this is such a nice example. It's the original paint, and just really from front to back, it is a nice piece, very well kept. Another feature that this does not have is it does not have electric start. So this is a kickstart only machine. But enough talk. What is this bike like to ride out on the road? Well, I for one can't wait to see. I'm going to gear up. I'll bring the camera along. Let's ride. All right, I am riding this 1973 CB125. And this is just different. Wow. It feels a lot like riding my son's bike with the two-stroke motor in it. The brakes are surprisingly good for the size of the drums. And I know you've heard people say that turn-in on something was effortless, but it's so easy on this, it's ridiculous. And you have to be smooth and easy on the controls here. Yeah, the seat's fairly comfortable. I can tell, as big as I am, that I am probably pushing the limits of what it's comfortable with weight-wise. And the suspension is, I can feel it. It still has some suspension left, but I'm not the intended rider really for this machine. There's no tachometer, so you just kind of have to shift by feel. And I wouldn't necessarily say the acceleration is sprightly. It's a little bit on the sluggish side. But man, as a kid, if I was, 14, 15 years old, having one of these things would have been just the coolest. And really, it's about freedom. And these bikes, for a lot of people, that was their entry point into the motorcycling world. And they just, got their first taste of being on two wheels on a little bike like this. So for a lot of people, it's nostalgic. My first bike I rode was my dad's little 360 Honda.
And while it was a little bit more peppy than this, it still had that same, it's an adventure when you're riding a small bike like this. You know, you go for a 20-mile ride on a bike like this and you've had an adventure. Yeah, I can definitely feel the tires and the suspension and the frame all flexing and moving around. And really, you know, 35, 40 miles an hour, this bike, it feels fine. It's good to go. You really wouldn't want to go 60 miles an hour on it, but I'm not sure that it would even do that. Yeah, this is just a beautiful area to experience a bike like this. Beautiful roads. It's a gorgeous day. And what a treat to be out on this classic motorcycle, just enjoying the scenery and the weather. And the bikes like this, these little Hondas, it's really where Honda developed its reputation for incredibly long-lasting, almost indestructible air-cooled engines. And they really developed their reliability reputation, and even for their cars, by designing motorcycle engines that were just robust, simple, and very, very reliable. And you just feel like riding this bike that it's just gonna keep on ticking. We'll hit some tight little twisties here. And bikes like this that are just really not overwhelmingly fast, if you can keep up a little bit of cornering speed, they're really a hoot in the corners. And this thing is so light. I'm actually having to be very delicate on the controls, just not to over input on the steering. But I imagine just a tight back road with lots of little corners, this thing would be fabulous. Yeah, riding a bike like this makes me realize how far along the modern bikes have come. When we first started out, John was on this bike and I was on his little 250 Ninja. And that 250 Ninja just has so much power and such good brakes. And it's all day comfortable, and really, you can ride that bike, and I know it feels kind of small compared to some of the other stuff that's out today, but it's got such a broad band of usability, and you can even do some light highway work on a 250 Ninja if you want. And you know, you ride a bike like this and the top speed is 45, and it's super enjoyable on roads like this, but it just doesn't have the broadband usability and the safety features that the more modern stuff has. But given that, it just makes, you know, even a short trip, it's an adventure. It's really fun. And you feel like you're riding something special. You can feel the bike and the chassis and the tires all moving around a bit. And you can very easily kind of push the bike and feel that you're working the bike. And on the modern stuff, it's hard to push the modern bikes to their limits, and that makes them safer, but it also can make them a little bit more, I should say, a little bit less involved to ride. Super, super fun. What a nice little bike.
I know that I said this bike only has a speedometer, but it actually has a pretty clever little tack built into it. And if you see the green lines and then the corresponding numbers here, so that's first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, and fifth gear. So theoretically, the top speed on this bike is right around 65 miles an hour. I had it up to about 55 and it handled it fine. So, like I said, it's theoretical top speed right there. I think that end right there at the 70 mark, it either stands for neutral or never. I think both will be appropriate. All right, that was an experience. This is the smallest bike I've ridden. When I first got on this bike, it felt a little bit toy-like. It's certainly not the type of bike that I'm used to riding, but really when you ride it kind of as it's meant to be ridden, and when you ride it on tighter back roads and, you know, just kind of go exploring, it's really, really fun. It's a gem of a motorcycle. It's got that, you know, the robust little 125cc 4-stroke motor in it, Honda motor. We stopped at one point and John showed me kind of the shift points, and he said, hey, you know, get on the gas, kind of ring it out and shift, make sure you're shifting at the shift points. And it was somewhat peppy. I mean, it's certainly not going to set the world on fire, but it was fun to ring it out a little bit. And really it is a lot of fun on a back road, and it would be fun to push a little bit, like I say, just because you can feel the tires and the chassis and everything moving around. One of the things that astonishes me is how good the brakes are. I really wasn't expecting that, especially, you know, it's a small drum brake in the front and a small drum brake out back, but the stopping power on this thing was honestly really nice. I did have to be careful. It's such a short bike. I did have to be careful going into corners not to kind of over initiate the corner. I'm used to just much bigger, heavier machines, and so they take more effort to turn, but the turn in, you just think about going around the corner and this thing just leans right in. And because of the short wheelbase, you can actually, on tighter back roads, you can kind of hustle this. I think guys on bigger bikes would be really surprised in the tight corners at how quickly this will go around them. But just a fabulous little machine. What a treat to get to ride this and experience it, and just to experience it on the roads that we did. It was just such a nice ride. And thanks again, John. Privileged to ride this bike. I don't know if we have any small CB Honda fans out there, but you know, if you like the old CBs, you know, give a shout. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. All right, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative. And until next time, enjoy the ride.